Deep in a vast jungle lived a lion named Orin. He was brave, thoughtful, and respected by nearly every animal. For many years, he had ruled the jungle wisely, but he was also a strict king, especially when it came to food. Rain did not fall regularly in the jungle. Some years, the rivers were full, the grass grew tall, and fruit covered the trees. In other years, droughts left the land dry, and food became scarce. Orin knew that if the animals took more than they needed during the good seasons, there would be nothing left when harder times came. So he created rules to protect the jungle's food supply. Predators were allowed to hunt only 3 days a week. Monkeys and other fruit eating animals could pick fruits every other day. Bears were allowed to fish only before noon. The animals did not always enjoy these restrictions, but most understood why they were necessary. They trusted Orin's judgment and followed the rules. Not everyone agreed, however. A donkey named Daro had begun to dream of becoming king himself. He noticed that some animals grumbled whenever they had to pass a tree filled with ripe fruit or leave fish swimming in the river. Darrow believed he could win their support by telling them exactly what they wanted to hear. Why should Orin decide how much we may eat? Darrow whispered from one group of animals to another. He only makes these rules because he wants to control the jungle. Perhaps he is even keeping the best hunting grounds for himself. At first, few animals believed him, but Darrow repeated the same claims day after day. Slowly, doubts spread through the jungle. The animals began to forget the difficult seasons Orin had guided them through. Instead, they focused only on the rules they disliked. As Darrow's supporters grew in number, they became bolder. One morning, a large crowd marched to Orin's den. "You are a selfish ruler," they told him. "You restrict us because you want all the power. We no longer want you as our king. We want Darrow." For a moment, anger flashed across Orin's face. He had spent years protecting the jungle, and now the animals accused him of caring only for himself. He wanted to argue with them and explain everything once again. But when he looked at the crowd, he saw that they had already made up their minds. No explanation would satisfy them while they were caught up in Darrow's promises. Perhaps, Orin thought sadly, they must discover the truth for themselves. He turned to the animals and said, "I will not force anyone to accept my leadership. I hope you will take care of one another, use the jungle's gifts wisely, and remember that every choice has consequences." Then Orin said goodbye and left the kingdom. Darrow paid no attention to the Orin's final warning. He was thrilled that now he was the king. The very next day, he gathered all the animals beneath the tallest tree in the jungle. "Now the jungle is ours," he announced. "Hunt whenever you wish. Pick as much fruit as you like. Catch as many fish as your heart desires." The animals cheered. For the weeks that followed, everyone took whatever they wanted. With no rules to guide them, the animals took whatever they wanted and used far more than they needed. Food was wasted, hunting became careless, and before long, chaos spread throughout the jungle. The jungle became noisy and disorderly, but the animals did not mind. They believed their good times would last forever. But before long, Orin's warning began to come true. The expected rains never arrived. The grass did not grow as thick as it had in previous years. Fewer fruits appeared on the trees, and the rivers began to shrink. Before long, there was no longer enough food for all the animals. Small animals left in search of greener land. Predators could no longer find enough prey. Monkeys leaped from tree to tree, but found only bare branches. Bears spent entire days searching the river, barely finding any fish. Daro had promised abundance, but he had no plan for scarcity. Each day, the animals came to him asking what they should do. Each day, he gave a different answer, but none of his ideas helped. Soon, even his strongest supporters understood that Orin's rules were meant to protect the jungle's balance and keep greed from getting the better of them. At last, the animals realized their mistake. Orin warned us this could happen, one animal said. We should never have accused him of selfishness, said another. They agreed that they needed the Orin's wisdom and asked Sora, a brave eagle, to find him. She could fly far beyond the jungle and see places no other animal could reach. Sora searched for many days. Finally, she found Orin near the edge of the forest, resting on a great mountain. She landed nearby and waited quietly until he opened his eyes. Then she told him everything: how the animals had followed a foolish leader, allowed greed to guide their choices, and brought chaos to the jungle. We were wrong, Sora said humbly. We understand why your rules were necessary. Please forgive us in return. We need your help to restore balance to the jungle. Orin was quiet for a long moment. He had been deeply hurt by the animals' accusations, but he also knew they had finally learned what he had been trying to teach them. The jungle was still his home, and its animals were still his responsibility. I will return, he said, but rebuilding what was lost will not be easy. Everyone must work together. When Orin returned, he called all the animals together and explained his plan. The next few weeks may be the hardest we have ever faced, he warned them. But there is still enough food in a few distant parts of the jungle if we use it carefully. He sent the monkeys to the northern edge of the forest, where the banana trees still carried fruit. He instructed them to pick only enough for each day. He directed the deer and other grass-eating animals to the western side of the jungle, where the ground was still green. He sent the bears south to a shallow lake that still held enough fish to last for several weeks, as long as they caught only what they truly needed. This time, every animal listened. The days were difficult, meals were small, journeys were long, and no food could be wasted. But the animals followed Orin's plan and helped one another through the hardship. After a week, dark clouds finally gathered above the jungle. Rain fell for 2 full days. The dry earth softened, and tiny green shoots began to rise from the ground. Soon, smaller animals returned. Fish once again appeared in the river, and new fruit slowly began to grow on the trees. A few weeks later, the jungle was alive again. Orin gathered the animals and prepared to remind them of the old rules. But before he could speak, the animals made a promise of their own. They agreed to hunt only when necessary, take only the food they needed, and protect the jungle's resources in every season. At last, They understood that Orin's rules had been meant to preserve the jungle's balance and help its resources last through difficult times. From then on, the animals did not follow the rules simply because their king commanded them. They followed them because they had learned that the jungle belonged to all of them, and keeping it in balance was a responsibility they all shared. And that's our story for today. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a comment and follow the show for a new story every week. Thanks for listening to Clever Fox Tales.